Welcome to The InEVitable, a podcast by MotorTrend.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of The InEVitable. This is MotorTrend's show about the future of the car, the future of transportation, mobility, the future of what's powering the cars, and boy, do we have an interesting episode for you today, because not only is it our first ever two-parter, but we just have a great guest. We'll get to him in a second. This is Ed Lowe. I'm Jonny Lieberman. Before we get to the guest, Ed has a message for you.
Yes, the InEVitable podcast is brought to you by the all-electric Nissan Ariya, inspired by the future, designed for the now. And right now, we're going to get into our question of the episode, and it's a little bit long and specific, but actually topical, given who we're going to talk to. It comes from a gentleman who reached out on Instagram in my DMs by the name of George Acorn. And he says, I'm on my second Audi e-tron and about 100,000 miles of EV driving logged. I need to replace our internal combustion car, which just happens to be an RS6.
Yeah, we know George, by the way. Go ahead.
Tempted by Rivian and the smoking deals on barely used RS e-tron GTs or Porsche Taycan Cross Turismos. But I'm afraid of going a 2 EV household, maybe a bridge too far, and trying to avoid depreciation by selling the RS6. So going EV might be even worse when judged on potential depreciation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Very complicated question.
Yeah, but really, the gist of it is, can you have two EVs and have no other cars? So, look, if one of them isn't a Tesla or able to use the Tesla supercharger network, road trips will be problematic. However, if you can reliably use the supercharger network, you can road trip anywhere. So, if you put 100,000 miles on that Audi e-tron, you're using it pretty well.
Yep.
And it's just one of those fear things, And so our guest who's coming in, Kyle Connor from Out of Spec Reviews, he's got 5 EVs, but he has a lot of backup internal combustion cars. But yeah, look, I think you
totally missed. I thought you were going to go totally different direction. What about the RS6, baby? Come on.
Oh, I'm not a big fan of the RS6.
What?
E63 is just so much better. This is an Audi Homer. And look, but I would say this though: if you're worried about 2 EVs because you're worried about range, well, I wouldn't get a slightly used Taycan or a slightly used.
Fair point.
I love the Audi GT, but their Achilles heel is range. I've never owned a vehicle I like more than the Rivian R1T. Get the Rivian R1T.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I don't have anything really to add other than, look, if you've hit 100,000 miles with your e-tron, to what Jonny said, you're doing pretty good. You're well ahead of the curve for most EV drivers, so you probably have it figured out, and having 2 wouldn't be a problem. But if you're worried, get a Tesla, because you're going to have a better charging network, a bigger charging network, and
but remember, now you can get a Lightning. It's on the Tesla network. You can get a Rivian. It's on the Tesla network.
But you'll still have
you got to find the
range king. Or it sounds like you're loaded. Get a Lucid.
I mean, if you're worried about range, that Lucid Grand Touring, 516 miles, EPA rated, and real world's about 501. So,
and there's some deals going, not smoking deals like you can get on these used e-trons and Cross Turismos, but thank you for the question. If you'd like us to answer a question on air, ask us. Go into our Instagram. Go comment below the YouTube video if you're watching. Shoot us an email.
MotorTrend at MotorTrend.com.
We will send you swag. This is a representative sampling of just some of the swag we might send you. An InEVitable hat, an InEVitable t-shirt, maybe a copy of the magazine. Yes, we still do a magazine. We got some swag from Sonatas, who was a guest, and ARM. ARM gave us socks, which is a kind of a running joke. They're ARM socks. We got lots of swag to send you. Send us your questions. We'll answer them. But for now, let's really get into Kyle Connor, Out of Spec. Blew my mind. Thank you. You've been saying we should have him on for a long time. He's arguably the most knowledgeable person on the internet when it comes to EV charging, EVs in general.
Arguably, what's the argument? Yeah, he is. All right. Without further ado, Kyle Connor.
All right, Kyle.
Woo!
This is a long time coming.
We made it happen.
Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you also for loaning us your Cyberbeast pickup truck. Story should be out right about now, I hope.
And that shows you, like, if you're an OEM without a PR department, we have to borrow YouTubers' cars.
Which I at this point,
Yeah,
I am totally fine with,
Yeah.
because no more can people claim that we are in the pockets of big EV. They won't even
That's
give
right.
us the
That's
damn
right.
vehicles.
But your
to
friend
test.
had a question. We're in the pockets of big Chevy.
Yeah, it was like, how much did Chevy pay for their Blazer EV car of the year?
SUV of the year,
Okay,
which
yeah.
they subsequently had to do a stop sale or recall.
We felt great
on.
about that.
So
That
we
was-
felt
that was
really
awesome.
good.
The timing was
So
awesome.
They did not pay anything for the award. Now, they do pay to license and use the award in advertising, but that is after the fact.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yes, and that is all negotiated by a guy in a suit.
Famously, the guy in the suit, his name is Eric Schwab. Like, when we named the Model S the car of the year, I remember him running into your office saying, Tesla doesn't advertise. Why the hell did you pick that?
Oh yeah. Or where were they when we picked Nissan GTR one year?
Yeah.
And, that also,
Yeah.
total sales volume there was like 2,000. Like,
Right.
Prius was like 0. The first,
Yeah.
the 2003 Prius was like a 0. They didn't care.
anyways, that's
Yeah.
that's
but $0.
I want to join on one of those just to see what the criteria is
Dude,
like,
come
what the
on.
judging
Yeah.
is like.
Dude, anytime
yeah.
we'd love to have you.
Actually-
You'd get a kick out of it. It's really geeky.
Yeah, that's what I'm into.
We
so that'd
should,
be
what
fun.
we should do? Embed him with the test. If you want to really go
All
crazy,
right,
we'll
all right,
embed you
we'll
with the
get there.
test
Well,
crew.
hey,
Yeah.
this is a test. Let's see how he does on the podcast first.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Because
I
there's
think
the testing and then there's the judging, and they're
Okay.
two separate things.
Well, I've learned testing. Everyone needs to do a better job of testing, including us. So,
wow,
yeah,
that-
testing's hardcore.
Yeah.
that's a statement, because you do some crazy stuff. But let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's just start with some topical news for the headline of this piece, so it does the best on YouTube and our podcast and online as possible. Literally today, Tesla announced Model 3 performance, and my understanding is you were just coming back from checking it out.
Yeah, they just had it at the Santa Monica showroom. Went over there, got up underneath it, got to play around with all the stuff, but have not driven it.
Mm.
So did you get a tip that it was going to be there, or you just called up and you went, or?
A friend of mine, who's a real big Tesla enthusiast, texted me. He's like, "Dude, they pulled it into the showroom." I guess he had been waiting around. I don't know, but so yeah, just drove over there, and they were cool.
And you don't you're a pretty big deal in the EV car space. You did not get a heads up. You're not.
No, so Tesla will work with us on certain things, and not on the Model 3 performance though. Nothing
Right.
head up on that car.
You've been like the biggest Model 3 evangelist like out there, and one of the longest. It's like,
yeah,
why?
but we've always blended that line between media and owner, right? Like I
Yeah,
can,
yeah, right.
I buy the cars as my personal vehicles. I'm not just into Tesla, of course, but yeah, and they do a lot of things that annoy me as well. So I feel like I'm just as harsh as anyone on them.
I was going to say, I really enjoyed, Ed and I were just emailing back and forth to each other, your Cyberbeast balcony thoughts about, like, when is a software-defined vehicle, like, when should it go on sale?
Right.
And I think you were a little bit, how do I put this? Whatever, you were a little bit more forgiving than I would be. Like,
Yeah, sure.
like if I were you, I'd be so furious about buying that Cybertruck and the diffs still don't lock.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean,
Right.
I bought it for content to make videos like this, to follow
Sure.
the story of the car.
But if you were a normal person,
If it was my personal vehicle, I would have just said, okay, Tesla, the thing's worth how much in the used market? 200 grand for a tri-motor one.
Yeah.
I'd be like, do you want to buy it back? And if they say no, I think you can sell it.
yeah.
So I'd be like, oh, see you later. But I can't do that, of course.
Because, you and I are both Rivian R1T owners. And,
Yeah.
like, the reason I got it, the whole reason I was looking for any kind of vehicle was I wanted to do my own. I wanted a hardcore off-roader. And, like, the Cyberbeast is supposed to be that. And if you bought it and, like, it didn't work off-road, like, I'd be furious.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really crazy, of course. And we can go, I made a whole video on the topic, but
Yeah.
it's like, it didn't really start around the Cybertruck. I was actually driving in the canyons and I'm like, when is a vehicle considered saleable? When is it complete? And everyone will have a different idea of what's able to be completed after start of production. Fisker famously, shipped on V1 software with the promise of V2.
Right.
And then getting that into the cars has been a pain. So
Has kind of almost bankrupted them. Like, that was a kind of
Yeah.
a huge miscalculation. Like,
huge problems, massive. Yeah.
Because I remember, back when the Model S shipped, it was complete. It was complete, and then everything that showed up was like, "Oh wow, that's so cool!" And I feel, maybe you agree, the Rivian's been like that too.
Yep.
It was a complete truck at the point of sale. Everything they've added delights me. I think their software is, like, amazing, but it did everything.
But keep in mind, they didn't ship the what is it, the kitchen thing that pops out the side. There were some hardware
Well, I mean,
accessories that were advertised that never came.
Accessory, but again, like that's an
Yeah,
optional
sure.
accessory that didn't. I mean, look, I will say to be actually to bolster what you just said. When I got it, they're like, look, your tonneau cover is gonna break.
Right.
You know, like this is it's a third party. It's going to break. We'll sell it to you, but do you want a manual one? And I said no, and it worked great for 6 months, and then it broke.
Yeah. Mine broke recently. They just retrofitted with the new one.
The new one's great.
Yeah, new one, awesome.
Yeah.
So back to Model 3 performance.
He
That's
just
right.
looked. He didn't drive it. He looked at it.
Yeah, I looked at it.
I looked at it too.
What about the you did? When?
I had a picture. I don't know.
What specs wise? We should also note that we are recording this not just on the day it dropped, but probably why today was the day it dropped. This is the Tesla earnings, quarterly earnings call. Which I think most people are predicting is going to be a big disappointment to investors and shareholders. Any thoughts? Any thoughts on this vehicle, Model 3 performance, Tesla performance vehicles in general? Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think maybe you guys did as well, but we all just drove the IONIQ 5N, which is like a really hot, I don't want to say hatch, but it's larger than a hatch, but a really hot, performance-oriented electric vehicle that's not $250,000 like a Lucid Sapphire or a Taycan Turbo GT. And I was like, wow, cool, this is awesome. And in the review, I just kept coming like, I wish I knew what the Model 3 performance was, because this could be really close. And,
Right.
I was expecting Model 3 performance was delayed from, the standard car has been out for a couple months now, maybe even 6 months
Yeah,
in Europe.
it's been a while. Yeah.
So the performance was delayed. I'm like, they definitely got to be dialing this thing up, making it hardcore. And what launched today is not that. It's a new motor in the back, but it's a tiny bit fraction. Total system power is a little bit more.
Yeah, it was like 510 horsepower.
510. It's 380 kilowatts, which
and
is
it's the Gen 4 motor on the rear, and the front motor's the same.
nothing with Tesla. You don't know, but
Right,
yes,
right.
front motors assumed to be the same
Okay.
sort of induction motor in the front, permanent magnet in the rear.
Right.
They say better thermal longevity. They gave figures for the Gen 4 motor that was like 22%. I forget them offhand, but like 22% more power, 32% more torque. I'm just throwing those out.
Sure.
But then the actual numbers from the previous car to the new car are only like a 5% improvement.
Right.
So they must be battery limited or something limited to get more power, or there's a hot one. Model 3 Ludicrous, maybe. I don't know. That's coming in the future. I don't typically speculate, but I was hoping it would be crazier, and it seems like a really good daily driver that's going to be comfortable, and it has adaptive damper now, which is nice, so you can change the character a bit. But it's no IONIQ 5N, which I
Right.
think that's like, monoblock brakes, big suspension upgrades, things like that.
Yeah, it's
a wiper.
It's
Rear wiper, yeah.
We sent Joe Barry on the launch. I wasn't there, but I was reading everyone's reviews, including yours. And every once in a while on a launch, because I can kind of read between the lines with the journalists. I've been doing this long enough. But like when a car is praised like that, it's damn good. And like, I talked with Farah about it, and like, just seems to be the new benchmark for performance EVs.
Totally. Yeah. So
Which
my
is-
viewpoint is, okay, better car, but it's $13,000 more than a Model 3 Performance.
Mhm.
And it doesn't get the tax credit, which the Model 3 Performance does.
Right.
So in my head, I was comparing them, but they're actually different price brackets.
Right.
So, you can get, at least in Colorado, like a Model 3 for low to mid 40s now, Performance, which is cheaper than the all-wheel drive.
Right.
The all-wheel drive doesn't get the tax credit. The big one does. That's only if you qualify. But that's so much car. I mean, at the end of the day, if you can walk away for like 42 grand with a 500
No,
horsepower,
that's ridiculous.
car, that's insane.
That's ridiculous.
And
yeah.
you're still pretty bullish on Model 3 Highland overall, right? I think I watched one of your in the research for this episode. I watched a few of your videos, and the one where you got to experience the Highland in Europe, you drove it ahead of. I also remember like kicking rocks when you did that. I was like, man, we got to go to Europe
Yeah.
to do this.
Anyone can get a plane ticket.
But is this still accurate that you still feel Model 3 in general is like the benchmark for this segment?
Totally. I mean, at least in where I live.
By a
but
huge stretch.
do you remember when the F33 series launched? This was like 2012.
Sure.
They were on every corner. You would see every new,
Yeah.
3 Series. And then, what is it, 10 years later, roughly? I haven't seen a new 3 Series in Colorado.
Right.
Maybe 2.
Yep.
And Model 3s are on every corner.
Yep.
So in terms of sales, this is
Sure.
the benchmark for not only electric but also just this class of premium small sedan.
Yeah, and they, the Model 3 got a lot right. And one of the things is, we'll get into this maybe in part 2, but all the, the EV haters out there, oh, EVs are so heavy. Like a Model 3 is 3,800 pounds. Like
Yeah.
it weighs the same as a 3 Series.
And
it
if you
weighs
go
less than a
older-
C class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's remarkable. They got that so right.
Yeah, and so the weight's good. I mean, the new car, the updates, I don't know if you guys have driven it yet, but it's better for like
Right.
a comfortable daily driver. They definitely scrubbed some of the performance out of the standard car, and it's just nice, comfortable. It's got everything you need. More importantly to me is like, and to a lot of people, is you have dog mode. You have great app connectivity. You have the best charging network. It's a mindless ownership experience. It's not exciting. It's not enthusiastic, but if you just need a car that holds its value reasonably well, considering if you buy a new one now, you're not going to lose much. If you bought
buy
one
one
2
now-
years
yes.
ago, which I've been in that position, I have
Right.
a Model S that I ate a lot of crap on, but we could definitely get into that. But I think if you buy one for low to mid 30s new, you're not going to get hurt.
But yes, believe me, I'm like the cheapest guy on the planet, and
He is the cheapest guy. on the
I've been
planet.
surfing. I've been surfing used Tesla prices. I love seeing. I mean, it's wild that you can buy a Model S under 25 now.
Yeah,
easily.
and Model 3s are 15.
Model 3s are 15 to 17 in certain places. I mean, that can't help the the current resale value, though, right? I mean, I know, but a buddy of mine bought a Model Y about 18 months ago, and he's just like, I paid 70 grand for that.
Oh,
thing.
well, that's crazy. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, I paid 140 for my Model S, and now it's worth 55.
Plaid is
yeah.
worth 50?
It's only got 25,000 miles on
Really?
it, 55, yeah.
That's
That's without even disclosing that my colleague smashed it into a curb, and I don't know if it has an accident report or not.
Oh,
I didn't
jeez.
realize they're that cheap. That's the 1,000 horsepower for 50 grand is pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think they're quite 50, but
Well, 55 is
mid
what- yeah.
50s on trade-in. So let's say
Hey.
you buy it for 59.
Yeah.
That's
That's a smart.
Yeah.
it's
that's not
the
bad.
new muscle car.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's
Yeah.
not
Okay.
bad.
Yeah, the new muscle car.
Huh.
All right. All right. So we covered Model 3.
How about Cyberbeast?
I got it. Let's talk about Cybertruck plus Cyberbeast, and then another one I kicked rocks on when I saw you had it, Silverado EV.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Okay. So
Let's do Cybertruck though.
So Cybertruck, you've now owned one. You've been driving around for over close to 2 months now.
Yep, just about.
And
go ahead. Okay, I drove real quick though. I just want to see if you agree with my assessment. And I know you've driven the 600 horsepower one
Yep.
extensively.
Yep.
It is neither as horrible or as wonderful as everyone wants you to think. I think it's it's a very nice driving, seems to be pretty well made automobile.
Yeah, what's crazy is how so you read everything online. Everyone has all
Yeah.
these opinions. You got
It's
the
the
Tesla
worst,
shills that are like
yeah.
best thing in the world, and this is an abomination.
Yeah.
But when you drive it, it's just like a big Model Y.
Yeah,
It's just like a normal,
but
thing.
nicer. It's like a little bit nicer.
Yeah, it's nicer, and people just stare at you, and it's very dangerous to drive outside the LA area because they're here now. You see them on the
yeah,
streets.
yeah.
But in like South Florida,
Right.
when I got my truck, dude, like you had to be so careful because people would like film and then come into your lane, and it
Right.
was the most dangerous vehicle to drive, not because of the vehicle,
Right.
but because of everyone around you.
My quick, to me, the biggest shortcoming of the thing, besides, maybe that weird wiper, but is again, because it's not a full size truck, and it has a big bed, but because of the architecture of the thing, you can't get into the bed to grab stuff. You have to climb in every time.
Yeah, like going over the side is impossible.
It's impossible.
Right.
And I was my friend got one and he was like, it's the greatest pickup. He's never even thought about a pickup truck before. in
That's
his life.
every Cybertruck owner has never
Yeah.
owned a truck before.
And I said, oh yeah, I go, look at this with my Rivian. And I go, lower yours all the way to the ground, lower it. And I lowered the Rivian. I go, watch this. I took his water bottle and I threw it in the back of the Rivian. And I go, by the way, in a pickup truck, when you hit the brakes, everything slides against the cab. And I go, look at this. And I got his water bottle and then I took it and threw it in his Cybertruck. And he's like, oh yeah, go get your water,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, this I'm worried about. I mean, so to be transparent, like we've used the truck for testing for 2 months nonstop. We have almost 10,000 miles on it now. It's just been across the country, towing, hauling, doing stuff. But I haven't used it as my daily truck. I still have my Rivian that I've been like putting tires in to go swap on vehicles and
Right.
like doing
Right.
dog food runs, which take a bunch of room. And so that is going to be interesting to see what it's like to live with. But if
And-
that's like the biggest problem, I think I can get over the whole reaching into the bed thing.
okay. It's just more. It's more climbing into the bed. I
All right. So you
What do you mean,
bought
all right?
you bought
That doesn't know
this
trucks.
in excuse me. I've been a truck owner my whole life.
Yeah, I saw you rolling over on the highway.
Exactly.
Today.
I drove here F-150 Lightning. A 1983 Toyota Hilux is my high school daily driver. Get out of here. Good question though for you. You bought this in Florida. Did you put like a standard regular human? Put it the day it was announced?
No. We put in an order like right before we got the truck. So what happened was Tesla has a referral program.
Okay.
So if you have
right.
friends or whatever that you refer cars to or trucks to, you build up points. I think it's actually kind of fun, kind of cool. But my dad works for us. He has a YouTube channel. And so he had all these points that he's used. And so I was like, Dad, you got all these referral points. The Cybertruck just popped up in the referral store, which is like a Tesla owners only store. And it said guaranteed delivery within, I forget what it was, but it was like 2 months or something like that. It was like 8 to 12 weeks.
Huh.
And we were like, well, let's just do that. It's not going to work. That's crazy. And to be honest, I didn't, at the time, they weren't building the tri-motor ones that commonly, but they let us choose that.
Right.
I'm like, well, if we have the option, let's just go for it.
Right.
And it all happened, it was like 10 p.m. at night. I was like 2 beers in, and I'm like, whatever, let's get a freaking Cybertruck. And it was like $250. I'm like, what? Okay, if it doesn't work, we lost a couple $100.
Right.
So you saw the Cybertruck reveal with Elon and the thing, and you weren't one of the people that put the deposit down?
No, I thought it was dumb.
Oh, really?
Oh, why did you think it was dumb?
I thought it was a joke when it rolled up on stage. I was like,
what part of it?
So
the look,
ugly.
the feel,
the ugly. I just was like, this is. I mean, it's been years now for us to soak this in.
Yeah, it has.
And but I just was not into the truck at all.
Interesting.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, still for me, I prefer the Rivian over the Cybertruck as my daily
looks?
driver.
Oh, it's daily. Yeah.
Yeah, just
well,
as a vehicle, it's a higher quality.
So you don't like the way it
experience.
looks? You still?
I don't think it's pretty. I think it's interesting. I'm not like, ew.
Or you don't like the look at me because the look at me factor. I hate that. I truly people
that's
think
annoying.
Yeah, I don't
See,
like.
I've learned of
You love
decades
it.
of
You actually love
decades
it.
of
Did you
driving
have
supercars has taught me like don't look at anybody ever. you know?
Johnny
Right,
actually
yeah.
he secretly loves it.
I wouldn't even notice.
It was really fun the first 8 hours. And
Okay.
then we were like, everyone is driving so weird around us. And I just was like, now I'm actually like trying to avoid the cameras for fun. So like if I see a camera come out, I'll just go like full ABS brakes if no one's behind me.
Right,
And
right.
just like avoid them.
I mean, I drove. What was that thing? It was the McLaren Elva
Yeah.
with no windshield,
windshield,
on the
yeah.
freeway. And like my God, people were leaning out of their cars, and just because there's no windows or windshield, just putting their cameras in the car with me. Like I actually like touched the guy's phone. Like,
Yeah,
what are
it's
you
amazing.
doing? Yeah.
So how many Teslas do you own, or does
what's in your
does,
fleet?
does Out of
Yeah.
Spec own?
What's your fleet?
How do you count?
So technically the Cybertruck's registered under my dad's name. The company pays for it. So we just had to put it in his name for the referral points and everything. And he works for us, so it's all cool. So we have that. He has a Model X as his personal daily driver, which we can use. I've borrowed it for some time, but that's really his car. I own a Model S as my daily driver. Technically, that and the Rivian are my two cars that I use around. Not super into the Model S personally, but it's lost so much value, you can't really sell it. I mean, it's for 50 grand having a cool 1,000 horsepower car around, may as well have that. And then we have a Model 3 Performance that's from 2019, and that was a car that helped grow Out of Spec. That was, that was my car back in the day. That was my only car, and we did road trips and all the videos out of that thing, and that's what helped get us off the ground.
So 4 Teslas and a Rivian. That's the
4
fleet.
Teslas, Rivian. I mean, we got a bunch of other stuff too.
Renault. Do you still got
I
the
have a
twins?
Twizy.
You do?
Yes. I've got a Twizy. I have 2 first-gen RAV4 EVs.
Oh God.
I've got a couple 1970s
Why?
Commuta cars. I like the weird stuff.
Okay.
The RAV4 EV still going?
Yeah.
Running?
One of them, no, we just started a new channel called Out of Spec Renew, which is like how to preserve cars, how to recycle batteries, how to take a battery out of a car and use it for stationary storage. And so part of the story is what do you do with these old aging cars?
Right.
How'd you get it by the way? Because I thought Toyota bought all this back.
No, there's a lady in Texas. I mean, I bought them now, but she had them for $4 grand for both with the original paddle chargers, just a Craigslist ad, and a viewer sent it to me.
Right.
And I just called her immediately. I'm like, I honestly wanted the paddle chargers. I think they're called Magna Charge.
Right.
J1773. I'm like, I want those more than the RAV4s, but if they come with the cars, great. And yeah, so it got them all.
What
Yeah.
else? What else? What else?
Combustion stuff we have as well, but
Yeah.
the electric.
No, combustion. We can
I have a
talk.
couple Range Rovers. I'm a Land Rover nerd, so
Okay.
love off-roading. I drive often my classic Range Rover every day. Her name's Judy. I've got a Polestar
what year,
1.
What year's the? Well, Polestar 1. We'll come back
Yeah,
to that. What
that's
year's the
cool.
Range Rover?
It's a 91.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. 91. I would have been okay. I think it was a 90. The first press car I ever drove. When
That's
I was
round.
15.
That's round headlights.
Um,
Yep.
Yeah.
Round headlights. Yeah.
my friend's father was an automotive journalist, and we had our permits, and we went off roading in a Range Rover. It just showed up, and he's like, "You guys got your permits? You can drive."
Hell yeah.
And
Man,
so,
back in
yeah.
the day must have been so fun to be a journalist.
It's pretty fun now.
That's-
Yeah, it is fun now, let's be honest. Yeah, we can,
That's you're old. That's what he. That was a year old.
No,
back in the day.
1990.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was 15. But
Uh,
I am old. Yeah.
I wasn't even born in 90.
Jesus Christ.
okay.
man.
So
all right. Well, it's been nice, Kyle.
Yeah, yeah.
we'll get there. So
Sorry.
So you got Polestar. You got Polestar.
Yeah, Polestar 1. We have an e-tron, one of the full-size.
You mentioned I
e-trons.
listened to that. I listened on the Smoking Tire. You still recommend e-tron?
E-tron's great. They got some like weird recall stuff that I'm not sure what's going on with. I got to dig into
Which
it.
e-tron?
Just
Gen-
the
the Gen 1.
full-size SUV.
The SUV,
e-tron.
The
yeah,
Q7
With the-
yeah,
Yeah.
version.
Yeah, it's just very comfortable. It's a nice.
They're
cruiser,
nice. They
but
just
no
need
range.
more range.
Yeah, the range sucks.
That's-
Charging's good though. It just sits at
Yeah.
150 kilowatts to 80%. So for like actually road tripping, it's the same exact road tripping time as our Model 3 Performance.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so just hopping station to station, it doesn't
Right, right.
actually matter
But
between
just-
the two.
But for daily, I mean, I
Yeah.
I've borrowed I mean, like for instance, the GT, and
Yeah.
especially the RS e-tron GT.
Yeah,
Like, boy, if I had 160 grand,
sure.
I'd just buy one. I love it.
But the way to do it is buy those used.
Yes. I know.
What are-
They're
what
in
are
the
they now?
50s now.
Yeah, are they?
Or
God,
maybe
man.
RS. isn't in the 50s.
Taycans and GTs.
Yeah, but the RS, boy, that's a nice, and I think it's the best looking and the best handling. I love the way it
Oh,
drives.
I have to disagree with you, but I like
you
the
don't,
car.
you don't like the way it looks or drives?
Both. I think the Taycan's better in both areas.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
No,
totally.
No.
Yeah.
No. The new Taycan. I haven't driven the new Taycan.
No,
but
new Taycan's crazy.
Yeah,
cool.
I haven't driven that yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
stick
get
with
back to
Porsche. So
any-
you just drove the
yeah.
Macan EV.
Yeah.
'Cause I
Macan
drove
EV.
the prototype,
Yep. I
which
did
seemed
that one. Yep.
super complete.
Mhm.
You went to the south of France.
Your opinion?
What did you
sir.
drive? Where did you drive? You did
We were in
Napole-
Antibes, and
Okay.
so they just had like a local mountain route around. And typically, I don't follow the routes, but on that one, they actually had a great.
Oh,
route,
you were on
so-
Route Napoleon.
I don't even know.
Yeah, you were
I
on
just-
Route-
It says turn left, turn right.
You were on Route Napoleon, which is like the best road in the whole. Out of
Okay.
Monaco, where you're
Yeah,
just like, yeah.
yeah. I don't actually know if we were on that one, but the roads were amazing, and so
Yeah.
we were going through these tunnels with like. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it was cool. But like it's a Macan, so like it's not meant to be a performance car, but it was.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a performance SUV.
The sportiest in the segment. It's got a Porsche badge, but most Macan owners drive around here.
Of course.
Just in the city.
You know this. I remember when I drove the prototype, they said, we're Porsche, so everything gets offered on summer tires, but all the ones you're driving are on all seasons because 99% of Macan owners pick all. And I was like, that's depressing.
Yeah, sure.
Come
Yeah.
on, 99%.
Is it really that high?
That's what they
crazy.
told me.
Yeah. Wow.
And like
It's all
that
seasons,
just
baby.
are the worst things in the whole world.
Yep.
No seasons.
No seasons. Yeah.
But anyway, so you're saying it's just a nice SUV, like what?
Yeah, really nice. I mean, so some specs on the car, maybe for the viewers who don't know, it's 100 kilowatt hour pack, 95 usable, dual motor only at the moment. I think they'll do a rear wheel drive in the future. The top spec turbo and the 4 are the 2 launch specifications.
There'll be a GTS in between them.
Yeah, and a 4S. I was in a prototype that said 4S on the screen, so I'm like, you know that they're going to be.
It's Porsche. There's no secrets.
No
Yeah,
secret.
yeah,
We
yeah.
know what's coming.
Yeah.
And I hope they do actually something spicier than the turbo because there's room if you really want a performance Macan. I've spent a lot of time in the combustion Macans. And the electric one just feels like a whole step above in terms of chassis. It feels more sorted. It's purpose built now to be a car.
You mean it's no longer an Audi?
It's
with
no
the
longer an
Porsche
Audi
badge?
with the
Yeah.
engine flipped
Yeah,
around that
yeah,
bounced every time you drove it hard.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said because everyone's always like, "Oh, Porsche." I go, Macan sucks. And I get a lot
Cayenne's
of
so
flack.
much better than Macan. What
If-
do you think about that?
Well, yes, 100% agree. Except for, and I only drove it on the launch, but the base Cayenne is pretty whatever. And I know they just
V6
refreshed
one,
it,
yeah.
yeah. But I got for years, but I'm like, no, don't get a Macan. Get anything else.
That's, they were always the worst Porsche.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, still, worst Porsche is pretty good.
I told my cousin to buy the Gen 1 Macan.
Yeah, but again,
And then the
people just
engine blew up on
Yeah,
it.
they're not
but
precise.
people blindly because there's a Porsche. I'm like, why would you? If you like actually like driving, turns out most people don't like driving. They
Well,
like
Well,
I've
okay,
learned
let
that.
me ask you something. Did you feel, how was the software, the screens, the electrical architecture in that car? Any noticeable flaws or gaps?
So these are the questions that we need to talk about more. Software. I need to become better at reviewing software, connected experiences, because this is what actually most of my viewership cares about, not can you go sideways, which is what I care about.
Yeah, well, real quick, we should. So Kyle and I were recently in South Carolina on a track with BMW.
Yes.
This dude can drive. Like I was like, what is happening? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know
it was
why
fun.
I assumed you couldn't. And again, I really don't watch car videos.
Yeah.
I've never seen your videos, but like the i5, like, which is a wonderful car, by the
Sure.
way. We could talk about that, but
Yeah.
I'm like, following the instructor, and I'm pretty hard on the instructor. He's sideways.
Yeah, I was just doing
drifted
drift laps.
the whole way. It was insane.
That
And
was
then the M3 CS, you were rocking that thing.
Yeah, I love driving. That's
Yeah.
I'm not the best driver, no question. I'm
but
not.
you're close, actually. you're pretty.
If I were to put some effort in training, I think there could be
Yeah.
something maybe there. But I think I can drive better than the average buyer of a vehicle, which I need to be a little bit above average to
Yeah.
review a car.
yeah.
And to me, that's important. So I
Yeah.
go
But
training. I
You're
go
a
to
lot
track
above
days and-
average. I mean, I hang out with a lot of people that do our job.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a
I
compliment.
learned that on the IONIC 5N launch, which is like, oh my god, how do these people review cars? So I'm not naming names, but
Please do,
holy
go ahead.
crap.
Nobody-
That's okay.
nobody-
You know what?
nobody
But
listens
at
to
the
this
break, I
podcast.
can figure out who was on his wave.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
I can do that.
Nobody listens.
Oh,
to
he's.
this podcast.
But it was fun.
You
They
could
had a
be talking
little
about our
time
guy,
thing.
though.
Yeah. No, your guy was good. There's no issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know who our guy was.
No, but you're saying your viewers care about software, not driving.
Well, I think ultimately, I think my job is to review a complete vehicle. And I think my understanding of operating systems, laws regarding what can be in a vehicle from an OS standpoint, are certainly, that's lacking. And I feel like I've spent some time with Chinese reviewers.
Okay,
And
interesting.
they
Smart,
are
yeah.
mostly influencers, not so much car reviewers. There isn't this deep culture of car testing there.
Sure.
But all they care about is software
Right,
and battery chemistry. And
right.
I'm like, oh, these guys are legit. If I can my goal is to take the like old school hardcore testing of cars, blend it with what, software and connected experiences and things that consumers care about, put that all into a review and then recommend a car based off of that knowledge. That would be great. But I'm still a long ways away
Yeah.
from that.
My man, speaking my language.
But
But hey, the original question was Macan.
Yeah.
How do you feel? And here, let me give you the setup because there's a point to this.
Okay.
Macan was massively delayed
Mm-hmm.
because
Years.
the argument was they did not have the electrical architecture ready and the software piece. So now that it's here, the question is,
Yeah, it works. It works fine.
was it good?
Oof. No, it's not good compared to a Rivian, which is incredible with software. And I know Wasim at Rivian, like the software team's amazing. Tesla has great software. This is not on that level. There are competencies in the Macan that are better bits and pieces. For example, the route planner that tells you where you have to stop, preconditions the battery, and chooses those stations is faster than any route planner I've tested in any vehicle. I put in, it wasn't this trip, but I filmed the car in a studio in near Weissach, and I put in someplace in Portugal, and it was like, bam, 1.5 seconds. It knew all the stops. That's thousands of kilometers.
As far as you know, though, right? Because once you start driving, it's supposed to change, right?
And it does.
Okay.
Yeah, and I tested that on this trip. It's like, okay, I put in a thing, drove the nuts off of it, and it's like, oh, stop early.
Yeah.
Right there, instantly. I was like, that was great. So the Porsche guys obsess over fast traveling with this car, which is what I care about in an EV. I'm always on the road driving. We got shoots everywhere. I drive electric. I think it's fun to road trip electric. And the fact that the car, I can set it to get to a charger at 3% state of charge, which is how I like to
you
drive.
can do that?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And Mercedes lets you do it as well, which is cool.
Okay.
But that's where like Rivian's actually lacking pretty hardcore in the route planning district.
Well, didn't they buy a better route planner and it was
Yeah.
supposed to help in some way?
Yeah, I haven't seen much benefit from that purchase yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
But Macan's good overall. Like, it's expensive compared to combustion Macan.
Sure.
Combustion Macan was always actually, people were surprised at how inexpensive it was compared to their mental impact. I mean, you used to
Right.
be able to get a 4-cylinder Macan for 55.
Yeah, something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
56.
Sorry,
Yeah,
56.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's cool. This is not that. This is 90.
What do you think of Porsche's bizarre fascination with no one pedal driving? Like they're really going to die on that hill. And I again, I was just driving around yesterday, one pedal, and I was like, and I knew the Macan review was coming, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with it? Anyways, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a philosophical issue because the Q6 e-tron, which is the sister car to the Macan, has one pedal driving.
Yeah.
And it's the same architecture, same
Yeah.
platform.
No, it's just Porsche's
It
obsession.
is just they don't want it. However, Dr. Robert Meyer, who's responsible for the Macan, has become a friend over reviewing the cars
sure.
the years, and I've really pushed him on this, and he says that they are now considering putting in one pedal driving through an over-the-air update to the Macan, which I'm like, you have to do that because I posted the video this morning, there's already 10, 20, 30 comments of people that are like, who knows if they would have bought it in the first place, but that are like, I'm not buying that car until it has whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just such like, again, if you spend time with EVs. Now look, I have a lot of friends that go, I want to try your Rivian out, and like 5 minutes they'll drive for 5 minutes. I hate it. Why? Take your foot off the
So
gas and
jerky.
the brakes come on.
So
I go,
jerky.
yeah. Like that's by design. Actually, you should increase it. It's even better.
Yeah.
But like it's just I mean, I remember on the development drive, I mean, these first of all, they're the grumpiest engineers I've ever encountered. I mean, I literally, it's the one guy, I'm like, so is this bigger than the old one? Like, arms folded, like, I don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, you do. I literally parked it next to an old Macan.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But, and I'm like, it actually can't be more efficient. I'm like, there's no way that coasting can be more efficient than regenerating. I refute your argument.
We can get into the numbers. It is more efficient to coast.
It can't be. Well, first, okay, if you do it like you're a half mile before a red light.
Yeah.
Okay, no one drives like that, and no Porsche driver
but you'll
drives
still
like
you'll still recuperate energy in the Macan even without one pedal driving because it's a blended brake pedal.
that. Yeah, well, but if you just lift,
Yeah, it's no different than hitting the brake pedal because it's brake by wire in the Macan now.
yeah,
And Taycan always did a little bit more friction brake blending than I would like, but Macan pretty much is just in the way that it's set up. If you have one pedal driving off or regen off completely, I
regen
should
off,
say.
yeah.
You lift and the car goes to zero motor power, which is
Right.
not totally true because it's dual
Yes,
permanent magnet,
and
they
it's
do
always doing a
shit-
little bit.
You
Yeah,
always
yeah,
have
yeah,
flex losses,
yeah. Right.
and then if you're just coasting, the idea is that you don't have any conversion losses. The motors are AC, so every time you convert DC to AC and AC back to DC, you'll have an efficiency loss. Let's say you can recapture at 70% efficiency from a motor into a battery pack. There's heat loss there. There's conversion losses. And even if you do have to brake in the Macan, though, when you hit the brake pedal, it's just using regen.
I understand that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying though is that like an electric motor is 60% efficient. In other words, 60% of the energy goes to moving the vehicle forward, and 40%
It's like
is
95, but yeah.
no.
Yeah.
It's 60%, and then when you add in regen, you get to 80 to 90%. That's how EVs work. So that's why it drives me crazy with Porsche.
I think you get the same benefit either way.
Huh?
Yeah, because either way, you're either outputting or regenning. Whether you're doing that off throttle or on the brake pedal, that's just a user input difference.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so you're saying the efficient. Okay,
The motors don't care. It's they're
Right,
being
right.
told to output or regen,
Okay,
and it's
so
whether you're
but,
being.
But isn't there time, to put it in a weightlifting term, time under tension? Like if you just do one little, I guess you're right. All right. Anyways,
Yeah.
it just drives me nuts. The
There
Porsche
is
thing.
some truth. I mean, if we get really into the details to reducing the amount of regen that you're doing, like if you can quickly transition to regen,
Yeah.
because there's I squared R, which means that your
Oh,
losses.
you've lost me. I squared R.
Well, your
What's
losses
I?
are right. So, I mean, yes. Essentially, the way that it works is the more current that you have,
Okay.
on an exponential basis, the more losses you'll have. So,
Right.
100 amps, let's just say, are being flowed, you'll have X number of losses. At 200 amps, it's not double; it's
Yeah. It's an order of
significantly more. Yeah.
magnitude. Okay.
So, if you can reduce the amount of regen you're doing and even prolong the time, you'll actually get a little bit more back into the battery. But we're talking nothing that would ever show up in a
Right.
result.
Okay.
Right.
This is a great point, a great moment for us to change gears
Uh-oh.
here. Okay. Well, because I feel like we'll talk about all these cool new EVs and cars throughout the rest of this now definitely 2-part conversation. but I have to ask at this very moment, who the hell are you? Like, I've been trying to figure out, where does the knowledge, the interest, the passion, I squared R, and you did not go, as far as I can tell, you don't have a electrical engineering degree
No,
or a CS degree.
no.
Like,
College
Who-
dropout.
Yeah.
Who
1
the
year
hell
is all I gave college.
you grew up in Connecticut,
Yep.
and then you went to high school there, and went to college in High Point for 1 year.
Yep.
And studied what? What were you what were you
Oh,
going there for?
honestly, nothing. I didn't even show up to class. There was
Nice.
nothing interesting going on there. It was a cool school. I was like, they have a steakhouse on campus. That's where I want to
Oh,
go.
that is cool. Okay.
So then in high school, were you like I got a 5 in the AP Physics?
No, no.
Like what? Like what's
C's.
You're a
Same.
a C student.
I was
Yeah.
a C student. Good job.
Yeah,
Okay.
B and C, never A's.
and you love
I got 1A in history once.
D and gym didn't even show up.
I got D's in French.
and you okay. So you love cars your whole life.
Yeah, always a car. And my dad's a car enthusiast. So I got a lot of the car love from him. But he's not a super nerd, I would say. But he's always had, I was lucky, he always had cool cars.
Well, then
growing
let me
up.
ask you this. What else were you obsessive about before cars?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It is, my whole life is cars.
Wow.
There's not one other passion.
Nothing, no other interests?
Zero.
And I should have asked this. I should have asked this.
Not even a hint. Like I look
Wow.
at your profile. I'm like watching you, do the card thing, the strongman challenge, and whiskey and watches, and I'm like, I wish I had even remotely something else.
Wow.
It is just cars.
Okay. And then no, hang on, because you said it earlier. You weren't even born yet in 1990. How?
No, I was born in '95.
Oh my god.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. You're 29?
Yeah, 28. I turned
20
29 in November. Yeah, I'm a baby.
We're
You're killing me.
So wait, real quick, we met. You ran up to me at an airport, if
Yeah,
memory
years
serves.
ago.
Yeah, memory serves,
LAX.
and you were like, "Hey, man, big fan," or something like
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna break the Cannonball record in an EV.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that sounds like hell."
Yeah, I know. That's what you said to me too. You said that sounds awful. I'm like, I love this because it is. It's not fun, but I'm a nerd.
That must have been 2018 or 2017.
Yeah, I think 2018, something like that.
Because
Yeah.
I listened to
Yeah.
I just listened to one for you to record in 2019, and you had just done it.
Yeah,
So, okay.
But I was doing a scouting run for that. I was
Okay.
taking it so seriously.
Right. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
look, when, I think I might have told you this, and you probably knew this, but like when Alex Roy did it, JF Musial, who is we all know him, Inside Baseball, he films a lot of stuff for a lot of car companies.
Mostly a lot of Porsche
A
stuff.
lot of Porsche
A
stuff.
lot of Cadillac stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm in a new Le Mans documentary. He did. Anyways,
No way.
a
Awesome.
little plug for JF. But
Yeah, JF's
he had
awesome.
JF pre-run the route and go to each gas station. So you'd pull off a highway.
remember
and
that.
There'd be like 4 gas stations,
Yeah.
and he'd have JF time each pump. So Alex knew exactly which pump at which gas station was the fast, which was brilliant.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the same approach we took
military
to the
approach.
EV
Yeah.
thing.
Right,
Yep. And
right,
Alex had been doing. I already talked to Alex at the time. He was aware what we were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and since we've become friends since then, of course, which is great.
oh.
And yeah, I mean the EV Cannonball stuff is not. Look at how fast I can drive across the country. I was interested in it because I wanted to see and benchmark how quickly you could road trip a vehicle. At what point do electric cars and gas cars reach parity on a road trip?
Right.
And I think the only way to prove that is to road trip.
Okay. I want to get to your road trip because you've done a lot, but
Yeah.
let's stay on high school or your early years. Who are your? Because God dang, you're so young. Well, what were your influences? And you don't have to say MotorTrend because it's
No, I watched a lot of
lot.
MotorTrend. I was a consumer of car content as a car enthusiast. I would watch everything, more watch than read. I think a lot of the, I feel like there's generations to car journalists,
Yes.
right? So you have the ones that were, inspired by reading articles, and
Yes.
then now you have my generation, which is inspired from the Top Gear age, and
Right.
your videos on MotorTrend and others, where we're like, this is awesome. That's what I want to do, and
And it's so funny. I mean, I know that and I see it all the time, but like when I was back doing those videos, I was like, God, making videos is hell. Writing's fun. I still like to write. It's fun. And like videos are just long days on set. Now it's not what you're doing. You're doing kind of like more stream of consciousness.
yeah.
Not, you're not doing like perfect. Do it again 9 times.
Everything
in a row
is one
from
take,
30
yeah.
angles. Yeah.
But who? So then who? you mentioned Top Gear, and thank you for the flattery. This the video piece.
He was
which,
pointing at me. Ed.
I know.
No,
I meant MotorTrend.
I mean, I
in
remember
general.
that watching the days of
Oh,
your
God.
testing
No,
stuff
no,
when
no.
you're out in
Yeah.
the desert doing the
Yes.
deliberations on Car of the Year or whatever.
Very
It's
slow.
like, yeah.
But what if you had to point to a single influence? Is there anyone in particular you're like, holy moly, it was always so and so?
No. I
No?
kind of stumbled into this, I think. I was not, it was not my intention to become a reviewer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I was always like, that's my dream. I don't think I could have ever achieved.
So what did you just wanted to do fun stuff with cars, and then
Yeah.
you just started documenting it, and people
Exactly.
started paying
Okay.
attention?
That is 100% how it happened. I had a couple friends. I lived in North Carolina after college, and not that I graduated, but after I finished college,
After you dropped out.
after I dropped out of college, and we were
anytime there's a successful college dropout, I love it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of unsuccessful ones. But
yeah, sure,
yeah.
of course. But we would just go out. We'd be going to the Tail of the Dragon. We'd be going to track days.
What
And
were you driving back then?
I always had something spicy. I always spent way too much on a car. That
Good. Yeah, nice.
just I was like, I don't really have any other passions. Like I mentioned, don't need a big house. Don't drink a lot. Nothing like that. I was just like cars.
But
So,
give me some context for like
What I
18,
drove-
19-year-old. Like, were you driving like
a John Cooper Works GP at the time. I had
Nice.
back
Mini
then.
Cooper?
Yeah,
Okay.
had a
First-
bunch of
first gen?
minis. So I had a second gen, the
Oh, okay.
R56
Okay.
one.
First
I
gen
had
was
Countryman that we tuned up to shoot flames. That was really fun. Had a
very North Carolina of you.
yeah, right. Yeah, that was actually back in Connecticut, but I took
Oh,
that car
okay.
to North Carolina. Yeah, so a bunch of minis. I had a Range Rover guy, so I had a couple, Range Rovers. What else did I have back then? A BMW M3 manual.
I don't mean to be insulting.
Yeah.
Are you independently wealthy? Also?
No. I just don't follow me for financial advice. Every penny that I get just goes into a car.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't
Okay.
take there's no outside. A lot of people ask me like, "Oh, who pays for all?" I'm like, I have never taken an outside investment from anyone. I mean, even including my parents. They helped me buy my initial filming gear when I started Out of Spec, but that's it.
Okay. My mom-
yeah.
my
And now
mom-
your dad works for you.
Yeah, now my dad works for it. But
great.
like it's fun.
I
It's
know,
great.
I get it.
I was just gonna say, when I
Yeah.
started doing, car reviews 19 years ago, when you were being born,
Yeah, right.
my mom bought me my first camera, which I had to use for like back in the day. So
Yeah, I feel like we had maybe $5,000 because I thought making a YouTube channel you needed a bunch of stuff. So I was like,
Yeah.
we need a drone, we need this.
Sure.
So my dad was like, here you go, pay me back. It was nice, and I did
Yeah.
pay him back. And but I found out that I film everything on my iPhone.
yeah,
I was like,
I
you don't
noticed that.
actually need a lot of equipment.
And
to do
actually,
it.
I find your stuff pretty unique. I've seen a few videos. It's pretty unique in that, like, first of all, you're much more comprehensive. I mean, you put out like routinely hour plus to 2 hour videos, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Because we're always like doing 9 or 10 minute video. That's how people consume them.
yeah,
But it seems like your audience,
they love it.
they love it.
I don't make video length to try and game algorithms or anything like
Yeah,
that. It's
smart,
all just
smart.
my viewpoint is if someone's really going to spend a lot of money on a car, let me tell them everything possible because everyone else in the business is making consumable short content.
And I think honestly it helps you stand out a lot because I've been trained to think about, all right, you're gonna have 3 minutes to talk about the car. That's like, if you're doing a 10-minute video, usually I was doing a comparison. There'd be, the intro's a bunch of nonsense. It'd be like personal insults with the other host, but you have like 3 minutes per car to really review it. So I wouldn't even look at the screens. Who cares about like what the third screen is? It's surface stuff. But I'm watching your stuff, and you're really like, you're going through some screen on, I think, a Rivian. I'm like, I didn't know that screen was there. Like, you do every single like Doug DeMuro style, like point at everything in the car.
Yeah.
But also like pretty intelligent. You're not just like, look at that, look at that.
Well, I mean,
So-
I'm learning along with our audience as well. Their cars are changing. I don't know everything. I always say we're 7 years behind what's actually being worked on.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, 100%.
totally.
Yeah.
At
More
least.
than that. But yeah.
So, but hang on. How the stuff that you're doing, especially with the chargers and the charging networks, and if you're not, by the way, we're so far into this that we have not even dropped. Like, you're like, who the hell is this guy? Which is a question I just asked. Out of Spec, Kyle, on YouTube. You got
Out of Spec reviews.
Out of Spec. We have 9. How many channels do you have now?
So the intention of the master plan, which that's the only plan I have, is here's what I want to do. There's very little
Yeah.
planning that happens at Out of Spec. Is 17 channels. I think
This-
that's a portfolio that I think covers everything that I'm interested in when it comes to vehicles, how we power them, how we use them.
So is it fair for the YouTube, for the second largest search engine on the internet? Is it fair to just type in Out of Spec Kyle and we'll hit one of yours?
Yeah, just type in Out of Spec.
Out of Spec.
Yeah,
I
you'll
don't
find
need the
something you
Kyle.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you go so deep. And you serious? You got to see and like physics. Like, how do you? Where does the learning of kilowatt, megawatt, amp like?
Using it. I come from a hardcore user experience, right? I mean, especially planning for the Cannonball days and figuring out EVs. I wanted to know what the limitations were, how I
Right.
can work around them.
Smart.
And I feel like just living with the products and just trying to figure out why is my charging slowing down? Why is this better than that? You just learn stuff along the way.
Wow, but like when you go to a dumbass Electrify America, like at the panel,
I've been to that one too.
right? And it's so inscrutable, and it's
Yeah.
literally showing like two numbers, and
Yeah.
you're like, how much can you? I mean, what do you do? Do you open your phone? Do you get a physics textbook? Like what?
Well,
Like
you start hacking into the car's CAN systems, and you're like, what's the car requesting? And what are the temperatures of the battery? And what's the temperature of the handle? And it's a lot of it is thermal based for electric vehicles, So you start getting a little temperature gun and you play around, and yeah, there's no rule book.
He's
on
got
all
a
this.
very curious mind, and luckily you care about nothing else.
Yeah, right.
Do you ever shock yourself real bad?
No, I am worried about
Yeah.
that though.
So
There's-
you going in and touching the orange
no,
cables?
No.
Okay.
I'm not. Well, that would be a bad day. Me and mechanical
Yeah.
working on anything doesn't
No,
go so
okay.
well. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's the real question, though, right?
So
Okay,
strictly to a laptop, you're kind of or whatever you can
Phone
glean.
app.
I'm not a hacker. I'm not an engineer. I'm just I would say a hardcore user that films videos of driving stuff.
But here's the real question, right? So you're a young car enthusiast. Why the hell EVs? Because I know more young car enthusiasts that I can count that are like, man, EVs are stupid. EVs are a scam. EVs are a fad. Why? How did you become interested in E EVs?
I think I always have been. I remember my dad had so my dad is a car enthusiast, and I think he's got a little bit of the same fascination I have. He went from a E60 M5 to a Prius.
V10. Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
Because he was like, look at the battery interacting with the motor and all this stuff. And you
So
can
it's
gain
genetic.
efficiency. And
It's
I think a lot of
genetic.
it
Okay.
comes from just trying to learn about that stuff.
So you found you were enthusiastic about efficiency.
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, baby. I
Or
think
are
I'm-
you super clever and you saw an untapped market?
Look at this cynic over here.
Yeah, I don't think that was it at all.
Cynic in the yellow sweater.
I definitely have been cynical towards our industry not catching up with electric cars fast enough. I mean, most.
Say more about that.
Yeah, well, we can talk all
No,
day
no,
about.
let's talk. Well, what do you mean?
I think consumers are very ill-informed by general automotive reviewers covering electric cars.
Nice.
He's looking at us, by the way.
No,
Nice.
not necessarily. No.
No, that's fine.
You guys
fine.
own and live with them, but ultimately, it's like, I thought something really woke me up, which I thought was cool. You know Calvin at Porsche, of course.
Sure, yeah,
And
well.
so Calvin and I were talking years ago. I was involved, reviewing Taycans since the early days. And after a few loans, Calvin was like, I'm no longer loaning Taycans to journalists that don't have home chargers. It's not a representative
Right.
experience
Right.
to give a car and then just complain about charge. I can complain about charging all day long,
Sure.
but it's not tied to the vehicle.
Right. Look, I said that the other day. I said this insane notion that people that own EVs don't do 99% of their charging at home.
Yeah.
It's just got to stop. It's just got to stop. And you're right. The journalists perpetuate that.
Totally. And I do too, because I focus a lot on DC fast charging problems,
Sure.
which I think whatever this electric revolution people say is going to happen will not work until it's as easy to charge your electric car as it is filling a
But
gas
two
car.
things can be true at once, because me and Farah, for instance, are infamous maybe for just making videos bashing Electrify America specifically, but now I'm bashing EVgo even more. And people are like, well, how can you like your truck? And I'm like, because 99% of the time I wake up and it's charged to exactly, like if I want 73%, on my phone in bed, I say, tomorrow I need 3 extra percent.
Yeah.
And and it's set. And, but like I remember, I think it was like Car and Driver, I'm going to say it was like 2004 or 2005, right? I was a subscriber. MotorTrend always sucked. I get the issue, right? And it's just typical standard month Car and Driver, and it's like, letter, Chubba's editor letter.
Yep.
Prius sucks. Just like Prius totally sucks. Like, what a lame car. I think MotorTrend had just made the Prius the car of the year. So
Okay.
they were doing a kind of a reaction to it. Right?
Yeah.
And then Brock Yates, hybrids are stupid because they're stupid.
Right.
And and like a Hummer pollutes less than a Prius. Like, that type
Sure,
of thing.
of course.
Patrick Bedard, I'm calling all these guys out. Like mathematically proving that a Prius is not efficient, like, right? So now that zeitgeist of the old grumpy enthusiast dudes who hate EVs, hybrids of the future, man.
Right.
Like, oh man,
Especially in the last couple months.
Wait, it's just a narrative. It's just a shifting narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I
And
think
it's
you said it
incorrect.
best earlier, which is I didn't get into EVs because there was a business opportunity or because of anything. I just thought it was interesting. And I like things that move and that are powered and that are improving rapidly and keeping pace with it. And to be honest, it's sort of a right place, right time. There's no way I could have gotten into YouTube or my job or building Out of Spec without electric cars. There's no way around that. I couldn't have gotten into this and said, I'm just reviewing Paganis and whatever
No,
crazy.
you could have. I know a lot of
Koenigseggs."
people that do that.
Maybe. I don't think it would have been as attainable or easy
No,
because
I
electric
agree.
cars are. It is a low barrier to entry. Not many
Yeah.
even journalists were asking to drive them or review them
Right.
or
Yes.
check them out.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and then it's a double whammy because this, like dealerships. A lot of people might go in to look at an EV, and the dealer's like, nah, yeah.
Well, if you
They
think
shove 'em in the wrong
if you
direction.
think your average car reviewer is uneducated and ill-informed about EVs, the dealers are
way
Yeah.
worse.
a little farther.
No,
behind.
so yeah.
okay.
Except for BMW, I will say.
Are they doing a good job?
What? Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll just kind of like take my nephew or something, and we'll just go to car dealerships just to look at all cars in one place, and I talked to BMW about this, and since 2017 when I was a thing,
Mhm.
they've really hammered down on their dealers, like don't shove them off,
Yeah, the
Right.
dealer has. I mean, there's such a huge turnover. There's almost a no incentive to do training programs and
Right.
things.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
Why
sell
would
cars.
you? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's way easier to sell a combustion car than an electric car.
Yeah.
There's no way around that.
But hey, I want to pause right now,
Ooh, and use the
take a
restroom,
break,
and then come back and record part 2.
and we're going to
with Kyle Connor.
record part 2 with Kyle and answer some of your questions. So I got a ton more
I got a ton. I got a
on
ton of questions.
for Kyle. I want to get into more on his background. I got a lot of questions about how Out of Spec is working. Also,
Yeah, and we should talk about what he's actually doing that I think is so impressive, which
Yeah.
is your range tests, your tow tests,
I love
your
testing.
off-road tow tests.
I want to hear about these off-road tow
Hell
testing,
yeah.
all the truck
your
testing you've
off-road
done.
tests.
Yeah.
And then we gotta
As well
talk
as,
about
I just want to talk about the state of EVs and the consumer, which we just now kind of touched on, but there's a lot more I want to go into. So,
and then I got a lot of Rivian stuff.
Hell yeah.
part 2, ladies and gentlemen, please join us for the next episode
Next
week with the man, the myth, the legend, Kyle Connor, Out of Spec.
The InEVitable Vodcast, brought to you by the all-electric Nissan Ariya. Inspired by the future, designed for the now.